Hello and welcome to Cosmere Conundrum. I'm your host Nemo,
And I'm Roman.
and today we are talking about chapters 12 and 13 of part 2 of Well of Ascension.
Good job.
Yeah. Uh anyway,
Let's just
uh
dive straight into it. Tour guide.
yeah, pretty much.
This is tour guide to the chapter.
The first one definitely.
Like
uh,
chapter 12 is just mainly says it describing a location
yeah.
or describing how a ferrochemist like works.
Yeah, we got some more interesting things about Fragmus which we'll get
I,
to.
my brain hurt because I heard science.
Anyway, we start with the epigraph at the beginning of part 2 which says
Yeah.
that Kwan says that it took him quite a while to be sure that Alendi was the hero of ages, and then he goes on to name a few words in
Mm-hmm.
different languages for the hero of ages.
Yes, he was. Yes, I. The Repsine in Kalanium, the Amnenosaur,
Hmm.
Savior, and I was like, if you rub it away, you can read these crossed out Messiah.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, we have seen this quite a few times, even in Game of Thrones, well, A Song of Ice and Fire. You get different
Mm,
mythologies having different things, like Prince he was promised,
yeah.
uh, the Azor Ahai, and so on, like the
Mm-hmm.
first king, and so on. So yeah, very many things like that. Anyway,
I mean, that's not that weird.
no, it's. I mean, it
It's
shows a shared world building, which is, I think, I like that.
yeah. It also indicates a stronger connection to its history between various cultures than we had in our history.
Yeah, I mean, we
Like,
did have
we
a
do have
connection.
that, but we have to go really far back before you start properly connecting Germanic, Celtic, and Greek mythologies.
Yeah, yeah, we have to go back like what
We have to go back
six
about
thousand?
20,000 years.
No, Proto-Indo European
Okay,
was
sorry, 6,000 years.
6,000 years.
Yeah, okay, 6,000 years ish,
Uh huh.
depending on where you are.
Yeah, yeah. Just
But
Proto-Indo
it's
European was like 6,000 years, which is fine. So
time is confusing.
yeah. Anyway,
The amount of times I've gotten confused. Wait, was the invention of agriculture 10,000 BC or 10,000 years ago? It's both. We don't know exactly.
yeah, we don't know exactly when it started. I mean, to be fair, we don't even know when we transitioned from hunter gatherers to sedentary lifestyle because that
Uh,
transition wasn't
difficult
really.
to figure out every time we keep finding out some new place in Anatolia. It was like, there were 10,000 people living here? 8,000 BC? What the is happening?
Yeah, I mean, you get these like sites like Göbekli Tepe, which are made during the hunter gatherer phase, but like
Mm-hmm.
presented as a sedentary lifestyle. So it's very much in the flux, which
Mm-hmm.
is I like those things. Shows that there was more
Mm.
going on than what we often let on. But it's still funny that we don't know.
Oh, it gets even more confusing when you're in the Netherlands and it's like, yes, and then our people have had agriculture, which
Hmm.
took a very long time to get here. And I just want to point out, it did not help that half the country was marshlands or underwater.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then you get to learn about the different styles of pots they made.
Yeah, I mean, pottery is a
I
very good thing for us to know
yes,
when
but
what happened.
yes, but I did not learn much about Egypt in school because of it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, every region focuses on their own history, more or less. So,
Every region focuses on their own history, but there is something to be said like, are we really going to ignore every one of the Middle Eastern societies, barring a single mention to Egypt?
yeah, yeah, that happens pretty much. So,
I think my secondary school textbook had like maybe one map in it which might have had ore on it.
yeah,
Might is the big word there.
I think in our one we started with like agriculture developed here, Tigris and Euphrates, and that happened, and then we moved to Achaemenid Empire, and then we moved to India, and that happened.
Mm.
Done.
Oh, Persia doesn't even get a mention unless it's involving Greece.
Yeah, pretty much. Um,
But even then, I cannot remember my teachers actually ever explaining like, the Battle of Thermopylae or the Battle of Marathon.
yeah.
And I'm like, even that is a little bit weird.
Mm.
But then, don't worry, we did spend an entire 2-3 month period on Imperial Germany.
We we spent months on French and Russian Revolution for some reason.
That I can understand.
Yeah, I mean French makes sense. Russian?
But why did my country, need to put in an in-depth focus on Imperial Germany?
Yeah, fair.
As to be fair, it was Germany in general from unification onwards,
Yeah.
which it's like great. Yes, I really enjoy reading about Bismarck again.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, yeah. So
Let's actually go get into the tour guide chapter.
yeah, chapter 12. We begin with Caesar and Mars was standing at the edge of a huge crater, in the middle of which stands the conventicle, which is interesting because of what
Yeah,
Caesar says. Uh,
it's it's not defensible, and
mhm.
I mean it's in a crater,
Yeah.
so
I mean, we see how hard it is to get to that because you have an entire cliff that you have to sort of uh,
I,
get into.
I'd say it's defensible. It's just also ridiculously easy to besiege.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
It's
Caesar
more like you
points
can
that out
cut it
as well.
off really easily.
Yeah, which I wonder why such a location was chosen, or did they build this from ground up, which is weird as well.
I mean, they probably saw this crater and went, "Aura."
Probably.
It's the
Uh,
Inquisitors,
mhm.
the Inquisitors and the Obligators. There might genuinely just have been a good chunk of intimidation in there.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Like, you can't tell me that, oh, the Inquisitors, they're scary. Yeah, because they very much look scary, and that
Yeah.
definitely was part of the reason why they like to wear dark cloaks.
Yeah, pretty
If they were
much.
constantly wearing bright yellow cloaks, they wouldn't be so scary.
I mean, yeah, I can see that. But still, like, having spikes through their eyes is scary enough that you don't really need any other augmentation.
No, but still.
hmm Anyway, Caesar uses his feruchemy to look at the conventicle and the fortress and
Hmm.
doesn't really notice anyone.
Yes, and I have never wanted. I want to point out this is literally zoom and enhance.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is literally zoom and enhance.
Yeah. Uh, insert that CSI. Anyway,
I was gonna go Star Trek, but yes.
same thing. uh, but yeah, Marsh assures him that the Inquisitors are gone. That either north
Yeah, and he
somewhere
doesn't. It's interesting. From when we first met Marshall to now, he's sounding
different.
more normal
Uh, yes, he's sounding more
compared
normal,
to
but
when we
still,
first met him.
yeah,
He's still sounding really off,
yeah.
but he's more. It's very clear that whatever's changing him is tempered by being with friends
Yeah,
or by other people.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Which makes sense that he's, especially later on in this chapter, we do see a moment of uh, a moment where Marsh sort of shows his vulnerability a bit, which we'll get to. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Marsh then like he just throws the lift to the ground for some reason. I didn't understand why.
Um, I might have been because of the rope.
Uh, y- yeah, I mean it might have given him more rope, but maybe it's weird.
It might have also just been a thing of, yeah, I don't want this thing to fall on top of me.
Yeah,
Elements, you
that
can only do so much.
yeah, that could be it as well, probably. Anyway, so he just shimmies down using the rope, and meanwhile says it.
Says it goes full superhero.
Yeah, pretty much. Uh, we might even get a superhero landing if it ever gets adapted.
I, to be honest, his explanation did give me a headache
hmm
because it's just okay, sure, just
Yeah,
say it's magic. Not everything needs an explanation.
yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it's very basically just an air resistance. That's it. It's the same
Yeah,
reason
yes,
feather falls slowly.
yes. It still gave me a headache. I don't do physics.
Anyway, yeah. So he takes off his copper mines first and hides them so that if something happens, they don't get really destroyed in the process.
Hmm.
Which, yeah, makes sense. But then if you hide them, who's gonna find it if something happens to you? Anyway, what was I? Yeah,
uh,
Sazed reaches the ground this way even before Marsh, and Marsh slowly comes down as well, joins him.
mhm,
Uh, where Sazed compares Salomancy and Perugamy for quite a while.
mhm,
And then they start moving towards the fortress, which Sazed's biggest worry right now, while going towards the fortress, is that who will store the knowledge and educate the people, and not that he will
mm.
get
I
killed.
mean, I do want to point out that Says it seems almost surprised to see broken shackles,
Yeah,
and I'm like, Says it,
yeah,
come on.
yeah. You are in an empire that has
That really should
slaves.
not have been a surprise.
Yeah, yeah. It was just stupid. Anyway, um,
It's one of those things. Yes, it does need to be explained. But it's like, yes, I don't think many people came to the conventicle by choice. Says it.
pretty much. Uh,
Someone still needs to do the dishes.
yeah, and we see what happened to them.
Yeah, what a freaking surprise.
Anyway, inside it's darkness, and Marsh goes to find a lamp for Caesar so Caesar can see. Meanwhile, Caesar,
But yeah, but only after Marsh doesn't understand ferrocami.
yeah, pretty much.
And it's like you can tell the spikes through his eyes have impacted him a bit because he's forgotten that people need light to see.
Yeah, I mean, we did sort of figure out that there are some other ways for him to see, and which we see here.
Well, Marsh sees literally through because of all the metal
Yeah,
everywhere.
which is also why
Which,
this.
now that I think about it, might walking through a forest for him may be a little bit interesting because he's going to have to rely on the animals mostly.
Did we not get perspective from Carr saying that there is a little bit of metal in everything?
Well, yes, but how well you can see is going to really depend. You're going to be able to see a hell of a lot more in a city than you are in a forest.
Yeah, which I wonder how
Let
they
alone a
move.
desert.
Yeah, exactly what I'm wondering. How they move long distances
Yeah.
then.
Rely on praying they don't walk into a tree.
Probably. Uh, when
Well,
he
no, there's probably
returns.
some metal in a tree anyway.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, when he returns with the lamp, uh, they go inside with says it's sort of recording everything he sees.
yes, and this is where we really get into the tour guide section of the
Yeah,
chapter.
I mean, someone has to
And
explain
it's
things. So,
interesting. Everything's really interesting about the design of this place because
hmm,
there is design to this place.
yeah, yeah. We, I mean, first of all, it's everywhere steel, which makes sense. They need to see somehow, so having steel makes sense.
I mean, I was also going to go with they're very much on the nose. These
Yeah,
people.
I have written that as well. I mean, they could have used other metals as well, but steel somehow is, I guess, more durable. Um,
I mean, he does note that the inside plates have no rust and the outside plates do,
which, yeah, fair enough. I mean,
which makes
outside will be
some
more,
sense. But it's also just like they might actually be maintaining the ones inside.
yeah. I mean, who's doing the maintaining? We know that, but yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Ugh.
uh,
And Marsh is clearly not.
mhm.
Marsh like, you don't need to care about the Inquisitors. You don't need to record all of this.
Yeah,
And it's like interesting.
yeah. Especially even later on, which we'll get to when says that it's reading what he finds.
Hmm.
That also, like, I don't know. It irked me a little. Anyway, Marsh just keeps walking, trying to move towards something we don't really know until
Mm-hmm.
we see it, and it is basically the remnants of the slaughter of everyone who worked here that is not an inquisitor.
Yeah.
Mm. This is
Well, we know um. I don't think there were any obligators in that group.
no, it's mostly I think just Scar. I mean,
So
we
it's
don't
just the
really get,
servants.
yeah, we don't really get if they learn if they are Scar, but it just says servants. I would assume these are Scar.
We can assume they were
No,
Scar.
yeah, pretty much.
Considering there were also shackles at the entrance and
Hmm.
all that, they were Scar.
Yeah, makes sense. Uh, Marsh, this is where we see some humanity still left in Marsh when he says that he doesn't want Caesar to like follow him or see him when he sees the atrocities of the Inquisitors. Which, yeah,
Which is odd
I mean,
in a way.
it's odd given that you are in an enemy location and it's just the two of you and you don't want to be together. But
But it's also the whole thing of, is he saying this because he just doesn't like seeing this, or
mhm,
is it because he's feeling like, did my brethren did this?
I think it's a little bit of both because we know that
Mm,
he's becoming stranger and stranger with every passing day. So I think it's a little bit of both,
mm,
which would make sense.
but
Anyway,
yeah, we also do get a very we also in this chapter we also get a fun explanation of like the reason why he is saying things out loud,
yeah,
and it's because of memorization,
hmm yeah, we
and
learn
what
how
also and
Coppermind is made,
how
which
couple minds work,
hmm
and like how it literally sucked out of his mind. And
yeah,
it,
pretty
whilst
much.
he does put in a visual image of one of the pillars,
Uh-huh.
he won't be able to replicate it for someone.
Yeah, exactly. Also, he does say that if you don't know all the details, you won't be able to like regain all the details.
Yeah, he says that about the text later.
Yeah, yeah, but same thing
But
applies
he
here as
also
well.
speaks
Yeah,
about the mind's distortion of images, and
yeah,
it's like, yeah, that's
that
accurate.
that makes sense. Um, anyway, Marsh leaves and says it goes back to the hall, sort of narrating everything that he's seeing
Yeah,
when
and methinks Marsh might have known what was going to be found by Sazed here.
probably because he did direct him towards the stairwell, which makes sense. Um,
Yeah, which,
mhm.
considering this just happened to him,
Yeah,
it's probably more trauma than he wants to
yeah,
admit.
probably also why he doesn't like to talk about it, which we also get from
Hmm.
says it that.
Well, I mean, it's Inquisitor spikes, and there's a gigantic mallet,
hmm Yeah, pretty much.
which,
Yeah, yeah. So Sazed goes down into the darkness of the stairwell and arrives in a chamber where there are altars everywhere, but one particular room is apparently where they make new Inquisitors because, as you said, there are spikes and mallets. One thing that I did find peculiar is that there are spikes of different metals. And
we never did get an explanation when um we know that there's the spikes in the eyes are steel,
yes, and there was a third spike in the back that is also, I
but there
think,
were multiple
steel.
spikes in the back, right?
I vaguely remember it being
Nemo,
steel.
I can't look this up on Google.
No, I'm not gonna look it up. But yeah, I vaguely remember it being steel. It was a larger spike, but I don't remember
I
that.
can't remember what the situation was in the back. I mean, I could go back to car stuff.
Anyway, it's fine. But yeah, being different metal again, having something to do with metal, which seems like everything in this world has something to do with metals, which makes sense. Um, what Sazed like says that he doesn't need to know how Inquisitors are made, but he also wonders how Marsh was made. So this this duality right here um, is interesting.
Yeah,
Anyway, it's fine.
don't mind me. I'm definitely not in the last book. Just quickly looking this up because you got me distracted. There are multiple in the back. Yeah, all 11 of them.
Oh yeah,
There were
yeah, yeah, yeah.
11 spikes.
Yeah, we forgot. There were 11 spikes, which
11 spikes, 10 known metals.
uh-huh. Do you think there might be one for each and two steel in
Two
the
in the
eyes?
eyes for steel, so you can see out of both eyes,
Yeah,
and one for every other metal, maybe.
that would make sense. But steel, yeah. But there are more metals. We do know that there are more than 10 metals.
We do know that, but why would they need to use
Yeah,
aluminium? Why would they need
fair.
to use duralumin, which they might not even have known about?
Yeah, so do you think that's how they're getting their powers from these metals?
Yes, yes, I do,
That
because it
would make
makes the
sense.
most sense out of
Yeah,
anything.
that would make sense. Like it's something similar to like allomancy, uh, like allomancy adjacent something.
it might also be that's literally their power source. They never need to consume metals because it's just in them already.
Huh. Yeah.
Because admittedly, visitors are weaker than we thought. When you realize that you can just put one spike out and they're dead,
Yeah. Pretty
it's
much.
just getting close to them.
Yeah.
But anyway, we can continue this.
Yeah. Still, but it's interesting that they use like one for each, which is makes sense.
Well, we don't know if they use one for each, but it's
I mean, it would be sensible.
interesting how
Yeah.
some of them are different metals.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was admittedly, when I heard that, I was like, find one that's ATM. Find one that's ATM. Take it with you.
Yeah, but I don't think it found it. Anyway,
The sheer amount of ATM that could be in one of those spikes.
yeah, they are large spike. Like imagine the ones that goes through your head. They're large spikes. Anyway,
But yeah,
why?
we get to the text.
Yeah, when Caesar is about to leave, he finds another staircase that is going down, and this one is very cramped, especially for Caesar.
Yeah, and it's and here we get to the weird part.
Mhm.
A text in terrace,
Yeah.
which is clearly not going to be favorable about the hero of ages,
No. But also,
who is supposed to be
Mhm.
the Lord Ruler.
Yeah. It's to be fair, it's hidden at the conventicle.
It's hidden. It almost feels like the conventicle was built around it.
That would make sense given it's the most
It's
basal
so
part
far
of it.
down
Yeah.
and so hidden.
Mhm.
It's almost like the conventicle was built around it to hide it. But I'm like, I mean, I write these words in steel for anything not set in metal cannot be just like, yeah, maybe, but why did they not melt this down?
Yeah, why not destroy it? That is interesting that they didn't destroy it. But also that first line, I write things in steel for anything written in other things cannot be trusted, which
That screams that just screams ferrochemists not trusting anything written on paper.
probably. But then the Caesar goes down to talk it out in on paper.
To be fair, he doesn't really have an option. He's not lugging a massive steel plate with him, though, is
Yeah, yeah. Caesar starts reading it, and we realize that it is it is the epigraphs that we have been reading when Marsh arrives, and Marsh is in a hurry for some reason. Like he wants to leave this place as quickly as possible.
he? Yeah, it's like he didn't find what he was looking for, but now he's not been happy being here since they entered it.
No, which I mean, yeah, if you're an inquisitor who has been forcefully turned into an inquisitor and you don't want to be, you would rather not go to a place that is built for inquisitors.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's a bit weird.
Mm.
To be fair, the whole Marsh was turned to an Inquisitor thing was a bit weak anyway.
I mean, it
Just
came.
as a thing
It
of
was
this,
very fast.
it came out of nowhere basically just to save Vin.
Yeah, especially given how few inquisitors there are.
It felt a little odd that they didn't. The Inquisitors are really shit at background searches.
Exactly. So, given how few of them there are, they should be more exclusive. But for some reason, they accept Marsh in like a matter of months, which
Barely months, even.
yeah, barely months, which is interesting. Anyway, yeah, fair. He wants to leave, and he says it has been a waste, which Caesar doesn't think so because he found something that was from Terrace from before Lord Ruler, so something to do with his religion, perhaps. And he copies it down like makes scratches of it instantly.
Yeah.
As they leave.
And then he realizes, oh my god, I can go to Lucidel again.
Yeah, I mean, he had already been wondering that even in the last chapter of his. But now he's like, sure, yeah, I'll go to Luthadel because there's nothing for me here.
Yeah, but he still feels guilty about it. I'm like, oh, for goodness sake.
I mean, yeah, yeah, pretty much. Anyway, in the epigraph, Quan says that the worldbringers didn't believe him when he proclaimed Elendi as the hero of ages. And
yeah, that is very Messiah coded.
Yeah, and
I bring to you the savior. Why are you booing me?
To be fair, he goes on to say that he wishes he would have listened to them, which is interesting. that.
Yeah, but also
Mhm.
anticipation is capitalized.
Yes.
A lot of these words are being capitalized.
Mm-hmm.
That indicates just how important they were, that they were full-blown religious terms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would make sense.
Because you do not capitalize easily in English.
No. Yeah.
It's not
It's
German.
not German. I was gonna say the same thing. But yeah.
Admittedly, I prefer it if we did do that in Dutch and English, because it would make finding out what the nouns are in a sentence so much easier.
Yeah, that is true. Uh,
But
but yeah, that's where the chapter sort of ends, and we move on to the next chapter, which is
yeah,
pessimism coded.
pessimism coded and converse still make no sense to me, and I'm beginning to really hate Orsa as a character.
Yeah, yeah. Let's we'll get there. We start
Honestly, I don't really have much to say about the whole Orsa stuff anyway.
Yeah, we start with Vin and Ursa sort of sitting on a rooftop talking about mists and how they are coming earlier than usual. Ursa says that
Mm-hmm.
perhaps they are behaving like other weather stuff.
Which
To
I'm
change the
just like,
time.
the mists, which have not in 8,000 years apparently changed pattern,
Yeah,
are now just a weather phenomenon.
yeah. This is. I don't know. He's weird. Ursa is weird.
Orsa's annoying.
Yeah, pretty much. Ursa. See, Vin says that she doesn't think that it is just mere weather patterns, and Ursula says, "Okay, I'll believe what you want me to believe." What the fuck?
And I just like, at that point, I was like, oh, here we fucking go.
Yeah, it's gone on too long. Anyway,
It's just annoying me at this point.
yeah. Vin then goes on to ask about the Kandra, and we learn some things. Ursula says that the Kandra will be following his contract, which is something we learn again and again and
Still
again.
makes no sense to me, but
We do learn that they can't enter human society without a contract, and they can't obviously kill people, so someone else did it for them. And
which is not helping Vin's worries whatsoever.
yeah, she goes on to eliminate people, and the only two people she gets to eliminate is Breeze and Ellen, and one of them she rounds back.
Yeah, and the whole point where I want to go with, what do you mean you can't fight an alibi for the head bodyguard and the general of the army?
Yeah, especially like
who would have been around the army and the bodyguard the entire time.
no, especially the way she eliminates Ellen is that he was on the wall all day. Fair. If the king is on the wall, I would expect the captain of the guard, king's guard,
to be nearby.
And the
but Ham wasn't nearby. But also, what we later found out, it's going to be incredibly easy to eliminate Ham anyway.
Yeah.
Because he and Vin spar constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also
all Vin needs to do with Ham is spar with him, say we're burning pewter, and then seek.
See, what happened all day? They prepared for assembly. The assembly was in the afternoon. They went to assembly.
No, the assembly was in the morning.
Was it in the morning?
In the morning, because the news of the army, second army's arrival comes at lunch break.
Okay, yeah, lunch break, yeah. So assembly started at like morning. So before that, there would be preparations for the assembly, obviously. Then you'd get to assembly. Everyone is accounted for in the assembly, most of them at least. At least Ham is definitely accounted for in the assembly. And then as soon as lunch happens, everyone sort of rushes to the wall. So you should have Ham accounted for at least that.
But we literally get an explanation of Ham vanished to get for the army. And like, okay, but there's going to be a lot of people who will have seen the very recognizable head of the king's bodyguard.
Yeah.
Because he's the one member of the bodyguard who refuses to wear a uniform.
Yeah, pretty much. Which is,
and Klops is also very recognizable.
Yeah, pretty much.
Find the general.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who's probably wearing a uniform.
Even if
and
he's
would have
not
been organizing the army in response to a second army's arrival.
Yeah, he would have been looking towards the army at least.
At which point, you are left with two options of the crew, which is Doxson and Spook.
Yeah, it's
Of those, Spook can be eliminated via Allomancy,
Yeah,
which leaves Doxon.
pretty much. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know.
This whole thing of we can't figure this out. It's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's deliberately the actors are acting almost deliberately stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, this is not our characters are flawed and can't realize this. It's very easy to figure these things out.
Mm. Yeah, especially like given what we see of Ellen, he is very intelligent in these matters. He should be able to do it easier than Finn, and he gives
And
up
Finn is
easily.
able to spot minute details within seconds.
Yeah, and Ellen gives up very easily.
And it's just like, okay, from Alan's at least I can somewhat expect it.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole Vin starts doubting people thing is just reversing her character development.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we talked about it last time as well.
We did not need this plotline.
Yeah,
and it's something I've already complained to you about. We have too many mysteries.
Yes, that is exactly
We have way too many mysteries now.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Watcher. We have whatever the Mist Ghost is. We have the Kandra crap. And we have the Mist themselves.
Yeah.
It's too many mysteries for one book.
Yeah.
Because you can't really develop any of them at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one chapter for dealing with the Watcher, and then the Watcher doesn't get mentioned for a few chapters.
Yeah. Like even just in this chapter, okay, I will be jumping around, but just in this chapter, we get one instance of the Mist Ghost, which again we know they can interact with Vin. That's it. That's the only thing we learn.
Yeah, and it's confusing. The Watcher is just outright not mentioned.
The Watcher is not mentioned. The
entire... Despite the fact that the Watcher would be the most obvious suspect for who might have murdered someone.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Vin does know that he is an enemy because he did say he was an enemy.
He said that, but they don't even think about the Watcher when it comes to someone must have killed someone because the Kandra can't.
Yeah.
They don't think about him.
Especially given he's a Mistborn. He's the most likely suspect.
Yeah. And considering Finn was on the wall and with Ellen for most of the day, that leaves the palace undefended.
Yeah.
So
it's... Again, I don't know.
There is none of our characters are thinking logically.
No.
Not even when we know our characters could think logically.
Yeah. Anyway.
And it goes beyond characters can make stupid decisions. It goes into what are our characters doing because they are not acting the same.
Yeah. Finn proposes many ideas on how to detect Kandra and also sort of shoots all of them down.
Except for one. They can't replicate Elemency, and I just went, that makes it so easy to make out who it is. That is too obvious a gap to exist.
Yeah.
Because Ham is easily recognizable because it hides Klops. It keeps Klops technically in the running.
But Vin can pierce copper cloud, so she can see if he's burning copper. Like, that's the easiest way.
So that removes him too.
Yeah.
It literally only leaves Doxon unless we're being bullshitted with Ellen is actually the Kandra anyway.
I mean, we are going from Ellen's perspective. I hope not, because that would be
really stupid and would literally make me quit this series.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyway,
it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. One thing that the Kandra absolutely refuses to answer is why Kelsier kept him away from the Inquisitors and Lord Ruler.
Yeah, and I just went, oh, here we go. Something can be hidden. Something they don't have to talk about. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Oh, did we get a refusal anyway because we need to keep this mystery alive? For sake.
Yeah, it's gonna be a mystery.
Because the easiest way of doing it, because let's be honest, that just removes the, Marsh has arrived.
Yeah. To be fair, it really depends if Marsh knows the mysteries of Kandra. Which...
Maybe not, but maybe there's something with the Kandra that Inquisitors and the Lord Ruler can easily detect.
Perhaps. Yeah, that would make sense. We
But
also,
it's just
to be fair, we also know
I
that
just
they.
don't like this. I mean, I have a gigantic bias against imposters anyway. We know this,
Yeah, I mean,
but but
we do get some
there's a reason I
clues. To be, to,
we literally talked yesterday because I had to get my thoughts together in a coherent manner.
yeah. To be fair, we did get some clues, so it's not all waste. But again, I think it's there are too many mysteries is what is souring this experience. I mean, if there hadn't been other mysteries going on, this would have been the main big mystery that is like the focus of every chapter. Yeah,
But
fair.
the imposter thing,
Yeah, if it were,
yeah, I would still have disliked it for being the imposter thing.
no, no,
But
no, but
we
if it were
have we
handled
have
better.
yeah, it's that Vin's attention is effectively pulled in four different directions
Yeah.
via the mysteries alone, and then there's her relationship with Ellen,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which it, it it's just not good. I think
Yeah.
it's genuinely not good writing to have this many mysteries.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, Ursa doesn't talk, so Vin goes back to thinking about other things like Ellen and how he picked Keep Venture over Critic Show, which, yeah, good decision, I would say. Uh,
Makes sense.
yeah. She also thinks of the Lord Ruler and his last words, and basically how the deepness, while everyone is sort of ignoring it, she is the only one
Hmm.
who, I don't know, she feels connected to it in some way.
Yeah, which that's basically that's I'm just going to actually that's connected to the mists.
That's
The mist
probably, yeah.
acting weirdly.
Mm-hmm.
That should have been the main mystery
Yeah.
because that's what was set up in last book's epilogue.
Yeah.
Instead, that's being pushed into the background
Mm-hmm.
because of these other mysteries that did not need to exist.
Yeah. Which at this moment, when she is sort of doing this and talking to Ursa about the things which Ursa doesn't want to talk about, so she starts talking about herself, is when she feels the presence of the Mist Coast again and she rushes
Mm-hmm.
towards it. Which, the moment she finds it, she says it's using allomancy, but there's nothing there except for the mist and the
Well, yeah,
shape in the mist.
because she can find it vibrance.
Yeah.
Which means it's using elements in
Mhm.
some fashion.
Yeah. And Finn starts feeling afraid of whatever it is, which, yeah, fair.
Yeah, but also very interesting that immediately the fact that he's definitely using elements immediately rules out Mistwraith.
Yeah.
Because Mistwraiths are cousins to the Kandra.
Yeah, so Mistwraiths shouldn't be able to use allomancy, at least.
Mhm.
Also, Ven eliminates Mistwraiths as well because she had seen Mistwraiths and they don't look like Mistwraiths at
Yeah.
least.
Could be a young one, even younger than the other one.
Probably. She then, like, she talks to it. She, like, asks why it has been watching her, but it doesn't reply and moves towards Ven, which it at least heard Ven in some fashion.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't really thought this mist ghost was hostile.
I don't think it is hostile. I think it's just.
And that's the thing, I don't think it's hostile either. I don't know. It just doesn't make much sense at the moment because we get it so few.
Yeah, it's one scene every other chapter, which.
No, but this is what the second time we've had the mist ghost.
Yeah. So one scene every 6 chapters.
We're on chapter 13.
But yes, the mist sort of grabs Vin, and Vin feels cold. Something takes over her as she sort of feels lightheaded and falls backwards outside the window. Which interesting that the
Yeah.
Mistwraith was waiting inside a house. Whatever this is, Mist Ghost. Sorry.
I mean, I have a theory, but I just don't want to put it out there because it makes no sense as a theory. That's basically what it comes down to.
I mean, you
No,
should
I'm keeping it to myself for now. But it's I have ideas and they just don't make sense.
I mean, yeah, fair. Anyway, when
my brain's like, huh?
Yeah, Vin falls backwards and then outside the window. She's able to burn Pewter just in time, but still falls to the ground and gets up, looks up, which is where you see the mist sort of gathered, and she starts feeling afraid of the night.
Mm-hmm.
So she swears not to
Yes,
let herself get afraid and take
yeah, but I
something.
also just went with, oh look, another dangerous step towards a regression in a character development.
Yeah. Like she's being assaulted by every side of her character growth
Yeah,
that
and
was
it's like,
done in the
so
last
all
book.
of her character development from the last book is now in danger, and
Which,
I don't like
to
that.
be fair, it
In
can
my
be a
opinion,
good
that's poor
device.
character work.
No, it can be a good device, but it need not be dragged out for so long because then,
Not dragged out so long, and definitely not both of the core aspects.
yeah.
It's her confidence and her trust in people, and both are being attacked right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just too much.
Yeah. 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 I don't.
If it's one or the other, it could work, but
Mhm.
it's both at the same time, and those are the core aspects of her character development.
Yeah, and to be fair, to show character development, you can also show that yes, it is being attacked, but she is steadfast, and she is being determined a bit, but
Yes, but
it
the problem is it's both of them at the same time in exactly the same chapter.
yeah, and it's constant. It's not like it happened once and we see that she's resolute in
Mhm.
her beliefs and then it goes away. No, it's happening like every other chapter that we see Vin.
Yeah, she's also still relatively uncertain at times in Ellen's, and I'm like, oh, for the love of the Lord Ruler.
Yeah. Anyway.
It make that one at least makes some sense in
Mhm.
that she's always been abandoned, but you'd think after a year that she'd at least trust Ellen's.
Yeah, yeah. It's
But a single comment from a member of the crew, people she trusts,
mhm.
can set her back and make her frightened again.
Yeah. It's weird. Anyway, we then move to Ellen, who is sitting with the crew.
Let's go to the wow. The crew is somehow more pessimistic than they were with Kelsey,
Yeah, they
and very willing to give up.
to be fair, they were pessimistic even then, but like it was only after a big defeat. So like when the army was gone or when the like people were sort of I don't know murdered and stuff. So that
Well, yeah, when they had to flee to the bolt hole.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's when they were like, oh crap. They were literally thinking of running away when they had to go to the
yeah,
bolt
yeah.
hole.
When Marsh dies. So yeah, so these things sort of I don't know.
Dies.
It happened only when there was a major threat to their
Mhm.
existence.
Yeah, and it also just feels like they almost seem unwilling to defend Kelsey's dream all of a sudden, despite the
Yes.
fact that they swore they would
Yes.
in the last book. They swore to fulfill Kelsey's goal.
Yeah, and this entire next section is just them shooting down every one of Ellen's ideas until Ellen
Yes,
finds something else.
until Ellen comes up with the well, I had an idea for raiding, and it's like, oh, now they want to listen,
Yeah,
and then they come with, oh well, we thought of some more reckless moves. And lead with that.
exactly. It's, I mean, to be fair, even in this thing that Ellen comes up with, the last thing they say is that they don't think Ellen can do this. Well, they are skeptical of whether Ellen can do this.
Which that tracks. Ellen's absolutely not the greatest ruler on Earth. He's
Yeah,
ill-skilled because he himself did not express much interest in it in his youth, and by the time he did start expressing interest in it, his father had started ignoring him.
yeah, pretty much. And to be fair, we do know that we do know that the crew is competent. That much we know. They might not be the best of people, but they are competent. And this entire section feels like they are just complaining. That this is complaining every bit of it. Like let's say
Yeah.
like they start with talking about they start with talking about how the presence of two armies means that eventually they'll have to surrender and then they propose that let's just ally ourselves with one of them and then we can be just a city state like under someone else's sort of dominion, which You fought for the upliftment of the Ska. You are Ska, and that is not the first
Yeah,
thing you think of.
but I still want to point out every time we get a mention of how ill trained the army is. I'm like, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
They've had a year to train this army, and they are still calling it a bad army. And I'm like, seriously? It's also like, seriously, you've held control of Louisville and very much the entire center of dominance with only an army of 20,000, and the garrison of Louisville alone
I
was
mean,
20,000
to
in
be
the
fair,
last
I
war.
think at this point they just have a control of Central Dominion in name. They just control Luther. I don't think they control anything
Well,
outside
they
Luther.
still definitely control very much more of the central dominance at the start of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Because that's what we learn from Doxon's a little bit, is that
Yeah.
he did go to the outlying towns and stuff.
Mhm.
But it's an incredibly small army
Mhm.
that is somehow poorly trained,
Yeah.
which doesn't track with what we know. They managed to train a pretty competent army in a cave in a couple of months.
Yeah. It's the Tony Stark was able to do it in a cave with a
And now
pocket
they can't
staff.
even train a half decent army that is worth something.
Yeah. Pitchforks and
It
trains.
doesn't track.
Yeah.
It would be one thing like if Club was like, our army is well trained as best as I can do in a year, but we can only afford 20,000.
Mm.
Something like that instead of it's a poorly trained army.
Yeah.
Ham managed to train a force of what, 6,000?
Yeah, it was 7,000 out of which 5,000 sort of left and died.
Yeah, but they did a really good job because one of the garrisons was wrecked despite fighting in an ambush scenario.
Exactly. That's
And an ambush is one of the easiest ways to wipe out an army.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. This entire section felt depressing. I mean, it's meant to be depressing, but not in a
It's
good
meant
way.
to be depressing. No, and it's like, okay, just say the army is well trained. It's just 20,000 against 50,000. Those are bad odds under normal circumstances.
Yeah, like they are making some good points. They are making like how they have canals and they can like get their
Yeah, but
food
also
very
like
easily.
saying they can block us in, and I'm genuinely think, I mean, yes, but Straff didn't seem to be blocking the city gates.
No, it's. I mean, they have multiple canals, so I don't think both of the
Well,
army
no,
is
but
still
also
enough for them to block
Straff has
everything.
been there for at least had been a few days before Set's army arrived.
Yes, couple
And he
days.
had from the stuff he didn't seem to have started blocking the other city gates yet.
No.
But what they've done is they've cut themselves off from any supply before they've been cut off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird. Like I don't. The siege is not even starting yet. I don't.
No, it's because Straff didn't expect it to need to besiege the city.
No.
He was planning to assault the city.
Yeah. It's. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, like this entire section could work if the tone of the section were a bit different. Like, yes, they are coming up with plans, and then everyone is sort of. Then Ellen is proposing plans, and everyone is showing the demerits of the plan, and then thinking about another plan that might work. But
it's also that the entire crew seems to be united on the surrender front.
Yes.
And like that is. I can see it a little bit from clubs. I can see it from Breeze. Doxon should not be willing to surrender.
Doxon and Ham as well. Ham has his family in the city. He knows what the nobilities do to Scar.
Yeah, it's like it should have been a divided crew instead of a united crew.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, Ellen wasn't there for a few hours. Like, okay. And?
Yeah. I mean, it's their lives on the line. They like they should be. Yeah, I don't know.
The crew being united on this front is dumb.
Mm-hmm.
It should have been a reluctant support from Doxon and Hammond, maybe.
Yeah.
In but instead it's like, no, we should surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only really they also continually undermine Ellen in this chapter,
Yes, that is
which they
true.
haven't done before.
To be fair, we know
Doxson
Doxson
has.
doesn't like Ellen much.
Doxson doesn't really like it, but Doxson will obey the king in
Yes,
order to support the kingdom.
we know Clubs will. Feels like Clubs is kind of the person who will obey the chain of command. We can see that Ham and Ellen are like pretty friendly, so that
Hammond and Ellen seem to be close friends at this
yeah,
point.
so that might like enable Ham into not taking Ellen too seriously.
And Spook and Breeze have been away for a while.
Yes, so yeah, it feels like
like for the longest time, it was of the crew. It was Vin, Clubs, and Ham in the city. The other three were gone.
Yeah,
it would make sense if the support is divided between the crew, because some have seen what is going on outside. But even then, it doesn't make sense because the tone of the chapter only starts really slowly changing
when Ellen
after
starts.
Breeze says is asked about how does Seth treat his scar.
Yes, Ellen asks Breeze, I
And it's
believe,
like,
how does Seth treat the scar? Like, I think in this entire section, it feels like every one of the crew has forgotten that they are Scar. Like, they are behaving like nobility.
yes.
Which, I mean...
Like, we had the accusation from Vin in the last book that they were all acting like nobility without titles.
Yeah. And
they are acting like nobility without titles.
Exactly. It's so weird. I don't know. Anyway, they're very willing to give up Kelsier's dream and somehow simultaneously thinking about Kelsier in... I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, Ellen is determined enough to change their mood somewhat. When he asks about how they treat the sky, and he proposes a plan to sort of play both sides, let them fight each other, and then we can swoop in and finish the rest. And Ellen uses their risk-taking personalities against them to convince them, which this entire... I think that felt like the entire point of this section. Like, this entire section was building up to that, which makes sense, but it felt unnecessary.
Yeah, and we get the whole thing. Like literally the whole cutting supply line stuff.
Yeah,
that's literally Warfare 101. One of the few things they really shouldn't have forgotten in the last 1,000 years.
Yeah, I mean, food is like I mean, to be fair, they will be in seas, so their first priority will be food. So the first thing they'll think of to do the other armies will be getting rid of their food. Like, Ellen doesn't need to read an entire tome about it.
But yeah, like I get the crew is horrifically trained when it comes to military studies.
Yeah,
but it should be obvious that an army of 50,000 is incredibly hard to maintain.
Yeah.
Especially on the scale we're talking about, because both of these armies are from far outside the central dominance.
Yeah.
They are on supply lines probably 1,000 miles long.
Yeah, it will take about, what, a month for some of the supplies to get there?
Admittedly, they have canneries, so we're definitely dealing with Napoleonic era logistics.
Yeah.
Except they're going to be relying on the canals more than horses.
Mm-hmm.
Canals are a hell of a lot easier to block than dozens of roads.
Yeah.
And neither set nor Strath can garrison the entire canal.
Mm-hmm.
A canal can be blocked by just dumping trees in it.
Yeah, and they talked about how they would use like other thieving guilds and like bandits and stuff to block the canal, which seems like the thing to do. But yeah, this entire thing, I think, was just to build Ellen up and show his ability to convince people.
Yes, but I also want to point out that we learn that Set's lands are in revolt.
Yeah, which...
How stupid can you be as a ruler to march your entire army out of your lands, which are in revolt. It's
Yeah,
setting yourself up to lose your land.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's why it's probably his last ditch effort to get the ATM that Breeze promised.
Yes, but it's still it's like, okay. So first his army has to deal with diarrhea, which is practically a death sentence.
Yeah.
And now it has to deal with the fact that its hinterland is in revolt.
Yeah, pretty
His
much.
morale cannot be good.
No.
Set's morale cannot be good.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, Ham does point out that everything depends on Len in this plan, and Len says that he will do it. Obviously, he remains resolute in his promise, and that makes everyone agree. Which, yeah,
Yeah.
fine.
I mean, the crew slowly starts changing.
Mm-hmm.
Alan does not help himself with the sentence, I wasn't finished yet. It's too polite.
Yeah, I think
That is the moment where you need to do a forceful fist on the table, I wasn't finished yet.
I think that is going to be his character arc throughout this book, is learning to be more kingly.
Yes, I figured as much.
Yeah, learning to be more like
Because he's
forceful
been
in his.
questioning his skills as a ruler the
Yeah.
entire book.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway,
That's been his character stuff.
Yeah.
It's Vin is dangerous. Vin has basically been like, don't regress, don't regress, don't regress, don't regress. Ellen is like, I'm a shit ruler. I'm a shit ruler. And says this like, I want to see my friends, but I can't. I want to see my friends, but I can't. Oh, I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, they move on with their discussion when Captain Demo barges in, saying that someone was listening to their talk, and comes in with the terrorist woman bound in handcuffs and stuff. Anyway, that's basically the chapter with the terrorist woman saying that she wants to speak to Ellen alone, and Ellen.
Yeah, but the entire last three or so, like the last quarter of this book is basically the crew suddenly having a different personality.
Yeah.
In that suddenly they're willing to listen to Ellen.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this should have been a divided meeting.
Yeah, as
The
I said,
point of Ellen isn't there at the start because he's distracted by books felt weak.
Yeah. As I said,
okay, I get that, but I get being distracted by something very interesting. I do Wikipedia deep dives on the regular. We have a friend of ours. If we at 8 p.m. say something to him and he starts researching, at 8 p.m. he'll still be researching.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know exactly what we're talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
Nemo.
Yes. Anyway,
but it's like it feels a little bit like, oh, Ellen gets distracted by books. It almost feels like a joke.
Yeah.
Especially with how the books are treated in this chapter, where they're almost treated like a joke.
I mean, to be fair, we know that Lord Ruler did his best to sort of censor everything. So,
well, yes, but it's more the whole thing of, oh, he brings in multiple stacks of books.
Yeah,
and it's a wobbly stacks. Oh, and one of the books falls over.
See, they know Sazed. They know how good Sazed is and how vast his knowledge is and how being educated is good. And somehow they like make fun of Ellen for it. The same thing that Sazed is so good at.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I found it annoying anyway that Sazed and Marsh are just not in Luthadel anyway.
I mean, we'll get Sazed in Luthadel in like 2
we'll
chapters.
We'll get to the point. We'll get what the whole thing. But it just felt like, I mean, Sazed said he was going to go north to explain things to his people, and now he's just no longer with Vin, despite him promising to protect Vin.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Vin he thinks that Sazed will not be her steward, but I mean, he doesn't need to be your steward. He can be your friend.
And your steward, because you do still need a new steward.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah.
Which, gosh, Finn, are you nobility? You literally emplaced your Chandra as your steward.
Yeah. Anyway, that's basically how the chapter ends, with the terrorist woman saying that she wants to speak to Ellen alone, and Ellen dismissing the others.
Yeah.
yeah, apparently Vin is outside, and the tradeswoman knows that somehow. Anyway, in the epigraph, Kwan just says that he is resilient in his pursuit and that he wouldn't give up. Probably in proclaiming Elendi as the hero of ages, but who knows?
Yeah, because they are all seemingly in
Yeah, yeah.
chronological order, so it's literally that from the people were saying I was fooled for this, but I am stubborn, but I'm stubborn, I will continue saying
Yeah,
this,
pretty much.
and now he regrets it.
Mhm.
Would not be surprised if the next one is, and now I regret this deeply. Because half the
Yeah.
world is on fire,
Mhm.
and I blame Alendi.
I mean, he has been blaming Elendi for like last two books.
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Last two, yeah, he's been blaming Alendi since the moment the name Alendi was announced.
yes, pretty much.
But yeah, two frustrating chapters, mostly in the second one.
Yeah, mostly the second one. I think it's I think both of us are on agreement that the second chapter felt a little uh, out of character for
Weak.
everyone, and weak and out of
Out of
character for
character for
everyone.
literally everyone.
Mhm.
We got more stuff on the calendar that made no sense,
Yeah, it's fine.
or it, or at least it made sense in a way that just went like, huh?
Yeah, yeah. It could just
And
be Ursa sort of
being annoying,
being annoying. Yeah. uh,
but like Orsur's insistence on constantly having to be commanded is getting really annoying.
mm, yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
Mhm. But yeah,
I already
that's
know that. I already know that the next chapter is at least partially from Ellen's POV because I forgot to push the pause button on my audiobook.
yeah. So we'll probably continue this chapter's end, likely, which makes sense. Anyway, yeah, that's how we end, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye bye.